Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me, X is going here. Real quick before this video starts. About 50% of you guys are subscribed, so congrats. That's a big accomplishment, obviously. But I still want that number bumped up to around 70, like 60%. Let's go for 60% subscribed, which means I just need a few subs. Come on, guys. Come on. Subscribe, please. But yeah. It does help my channel as it fits my channel into the YouTube algorithm. Yeah, so with that out the way, we are talking about the Black Widow movie today. We're reviewing it, and this may include very minor spoilers. On my script right here, I don't think I spoiled anything, but just in case, there's minor spoilers potentially ahead, but nothing that will mess up the experience of the movie. And yeah, with that, let's get right into this. To start off with the goods, I thought the first 5 to 10 minutes of the movie were pretty decent. There definitely were some like boring parts, but it was cool seeing their like origins. Obviously I'm talking about Black Widow and her sister. It was cool seeing their origin story, and yeah. So following right after that, like right after those first 5 to 10 minutes, we have like this cool kind of cinematic opening where it's showing a bunch of tapes of like, you know, the widows in training and the widows in action and all that, like, and it was a Cold War era style opening, like the game. It kind of reminded me of the Cold War game, but definitely just very cool seeing it like that. Where obviously they're showing, like I said, the training and the attacks committed by them, which was very, very, very badass. However, I did have one issue with that opening, but we'll get to that when we get to the bads. So, I also enjoyed most of the characters, besides like one or two. I found them all pretty enjoyable. Red Guardian probably being my favorite out of the bunch, considering he was funny and had like a minor redemption arc, which was very cool. Um, Also the action and like fight choreography, which is a staple of Marvel films, were fantastic in my opinion. And honestly, the sound effects team just went to work. That's the best way I can describe it. They went to work and fucking made these hits sound brutal, like breaking bone brutal, and that was fantastic. I love that. When you can feel the collision, and I don't know if it's just because I was in like, you know, the really nice theater or whatever, or if it was because the sound effects were that good, but that shit fucking sounded like ow. That's how I would describe that. Um, but yeah, especially the first fight, which was shown partially in the trailers between Black Widow and her sister, like the punches and the shit that they did just looked fucking like painful. So that's awesome. Um, Also, while we're on the topic of like sound effects and all that, let's talk about the VFX, which typically in Marvel shows and films are very, very good. This one, it was more like average, with some being really good, mainly like, you know, the fire effects and the smoke effects and all that. But it definitely fell apart in some areas, specifically when the characters are like, you know, going into a free fall. It really feels ragdoll when they hit anything, because obviously it's a ragdoll, but like I was expecting more like weight into the, like, you know, the bounces. Nah, it just feels like they bounce like a ragdoll would. So yeah, I mean that's my one complaint with the VFX. Just like the characters felt like ragdolls when they were in free fall and bouncing off things. So that was a problem. But outside of that, the VFX were very good. Also, want to talk about this Taskmaster. He was that character was a great side villain. Like I loved the concept of using Taskmaster. However, I did not like a few things that they did to him, to that character later on in the film. Um, but we'll get to that one when we get to the bads again. And yeah. So lastly, the general music, like the choice of music, was pretty solid when used, but it definitely missed once or twice. But generally, it was used, Not that often, but when it was used properly. So I really don't have many complaints on the musical side of things. Now that is all the goods. Let's head into the bads. Alright, so here we are with the bads. Like I said earlier, despite the cinematic opening, with the Widow's footage, the musical choice was a terrible part on that segment. They used a cover of like "Smells Like Teen Spirit" by Nirvana, I believe. But it was a slow version of it, which fucks up the entire vibe of that song. And it was a slow pace, like, I don't know how to describe it. It was just a bad version of it. Like, it really was. They couldn't have chosen a worse song, in my opinion, to use it. Especially with the slow pace. There's so many other ones. But, yeah, I feel like they could have picked any song and it probably would have been a better choice. Next. I don't know why they did this, but I feel like this is a typical Marvel trap, besides, like, every few villains. But this main villain was terrible. Like, the character was bad for the sake of being bad, and that was it. And if you know anything about me as, like, someone who looks at movies or shows, fucking villains for the sake of being bad, I hate that. Like, you have to have a motivation outside of, it gives me power, so I'm bad because it gives me power. No, give a better motivation or don't have that villain in the movie. Like, please, just give me a better motivation. Also, Taskmaster. Like I said earlier in the goods, I really enjoyed that character. But, they could not have fucked up the character, like, the future of the character more than they did. Because I'm pretty sure the character is not possible to come back as a villain. Maybe I'm wrong. I fucking hope I'm wrong. Like, I hope that's in the Hawkeye show or some shit. But I'm 99% sure that character is, like, done right now. Because they kind of killed off the character in a sense. If you watch the movie, you know what I mean. Like, they didn't kill it off, but they did something to, essentially not allow that version of Taskmaster to exist as a villain. Which fucking sucks. Because that character is very, very, very cool. And is honestly one of my favorite Marvel villains. So that pissed me off. But yeah. So, another thing with Taskmaster is I really wish that we got to see more of the character. Like, we get to see the character in a few fights. And the fights that we see it in are awesome. But other times, we really don't see it. Like, it shows up in the background, but we don't see it do anything. And I'm like, why? Why incorporate the character in, like, those scenes where it doesn't do anything? Give us more scenes of fight. Like, I think that one of the first fights that we see in the film, if not the first, literally was, Taskmaster versus, like, Black Widow. And that show was badass because Taskmaster, if you guys don't know, mimics the opponent. Because the character just watches tape on the opponent and knows every move that they are going to make. And, like, this version of Taskmaster had a visor that was like, okay, the probability is they're going to use this hand or this arm to hit, right? So it would preemptively, like, counter that. That's fucking badass. But, like, god damn it. Why didn't we see more of the fight sequences with Taskmaster? I don't understand. It's such a good villain. But yeah. Outside of that, Taskmaster was pretty good. Just wish it was used more and wish that we didn't effectively, like, get rid of it. At least for the time being. It very well could come back. Marvel has a way of doing it, plus they just opened up the multiverse as, like, a true possibility. So that's completely possible. But, I feel like this version of Taskmaster that we saw in the Black Widow film won't be returning anytime soon. I feel like it was kind of like, Ghost as its villain, right? Like, Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp, decent villain, but you probably aren't going to see it as a villain again, which sucks. But whatever. Again, I gotta comment on this again. The main villain was fucking terrible. I don't understand how, like, you mess it. Marvel has a tendency to have really, really bad, like, villains. Besides, like, you know, Thanos, Vulture, Mysterio. Why are all the Spider-Man villains, like, decent? Whatever. Yeah, I feel like Marvel has a tendency to have really bad villains in their movies. Honestly, in their shows, the villains oddly are much better. Like, I haven't encountered one bad villain in any of their Marvel shows on Disney Plus, which is good. Which is good. But yeah. And lastly, the post-credit scene was not bad, but definitely wasn't good. So I don't know where to really put that. I'm gonna put it in the bad section, because it was just a really boring post-credit scene, which is really weird for Marvel. They're typically, like, you know, perfect with their post-credits. But yeah, basically it just incorporated a character from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which set up the new Hawkeye show that's coming to Disney Plus, I believe sometime this year. I don't know. And that wraps it up, honestly, for the bads. So let's go to final analysis. Overall, I thought this movie was a decent movie, which is something that I've been saying the entire time. But it definitely fell off in some areas. Obviously, for the reasons listed earlier, there were a lot of goods and a lot of bads. But the main ones that stood out to me were just the shit villain and the underuse of Taskmaster, which made this film drop, not significantly, but drop in ranking to a 6.5 out of 10. Honestly, if the villain was, if the main villain was good, it probably would be a 7.5. If Taskmaster was used more, but the villain was still shit, probably would have been a 7. But whatever. 6.5 out of 10. Not outstanding, but if you want to get more context going into the Hawkeye Disney Plus show, I do suggest watching it. If you don't want to, like, get context going into that, you can probably save your money. I would say probably save it for another Marvel film. Shang-Chi looks very good. But yeah, so save your money, I guess, if you don't want context for Hawkeye show. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out, everybody.